Just briefly going down through our agenda, we agreed on a set of rules for everybody to follow in the beginning. Just a reminder, we need to be polite to each other, not talk over each other, no side conversations, just be right to the topic that we're working on. Everybody bring their input, and then we won't have to sit here for 2 hours. We can just get right down through it. Our goals, as agreed on in our January 15th meeting, was to research and make recommendations for the town hall for a vote at the annual town meeting, and to conduct a feasibility study on town hall and address immediate repairs, and to explore options for the town office so that we can educate the town as to what we've found as a group. So the first item, we'd like to have just a reading of the minutes from our last meeting.
The minutes were sent today. I don't know if people had an opportunity to read them.
I did not, I do not have a computer.
No, I
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that we defer minutes to a later date.
Okay.
Second,
Need a second and a vote.
a second.
Very nice.
Need a vote,
Vote.
Mr. Chairman.
You got to vote to
So,
defer.
do we want to defer our minutes?
Yeah.
How many in favor?
Everyone.
It's unanimous. Okay, item 2. Last meeting that we had, after the meeting, I had a few people address the concern of us recording the meetings. I'd just like to have an open discussion, see who's in favor, who's not in favor, make sure we're doing the will of the committee. I think a simple show of hands would be the simplest way. How many are in favor of us recording our meeting and posting it on YouTube for everybody to listen to?
Well, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay. So, I think at this point, it's unanimous that we just continue the way we're going.
It wasn't unanimous.
It wasn't, I didn't,
No, it
No.
was not unanimous. And I think
So-
there's
So
a,
some of the people that verbalize that they're uncomfortable, that are probably gonna be uncomfortable saying that they're uncomfortable being uncomfortable with it.
yeah, and I suspect that they're
So-
part of it is because not being used to being recorded, you may end up saying things that in hindsight you wish weren't going to be public.
Correct.
And I think if we're going to continue having recorded meetings, whether we're in full committee or in subcommittee groups, we just have to be mindful that we are being recorded. And anything that is recorded is going to be open for the public to hear. But I think we went with recordings to be transparent, which was an important element to this committee, is that we were going to be transparent.
Would just having good minutes take care of that piece? And that would be like kind of the in-between?
Or record it and just you write down basic topics of importance or something?
we'll publish the minutes and
Yeah,
keep the
publish them,
recordings.
Put the minutes online.
The minutes are on the YouTube. Underneath the recording, the minutes are posted. And I think Melissa does a great job at hitting all the main points
Yeah.
of the discussions.
Could we maybe record the meeting and keep it private to ourselves? I mean, we don't have to necessarily publicize a recording.
Some of the original fears were that, we were operating in silence and behind the scenes, and that's not how we want to come across. And a lot of what we're doing is findings for the people to educate themselves with
Sure.
before they go to town meeting. And if they've got our findings that we come up with here as educational tools when they go to the town meeting, it's a good thing. Now, if it's in the form of written minutes or if it's in the form of recording, that's what we need to decide. And
In the fall, there were no minutes taken, and so I was taken by surprise that the agenda it didn't always seem to line up with what I thought I had heard at the last meeting.
Mhm.
So I was pleased to find out that at least there was a recording that was being posted. But when people at the December vote asked questions about how they could get that information, a set of minutes, you can access information faster than having to listen to a 40-minute recording or 2-hour recording.
Mhm.
And that's true, but if you wanted to hear the details of a discussion based on what the minutes say, you can go,
Right.
you can search the recording for it.
And YouTube transcribes it after like
Mm.
a week or so. It'll transcribe it so you can scroll through and look for a topic and look at it. And if they don't want to watch the video or listen to it, they can just look at the minutes and the description, and it's all right there too. So.
I think the key to what we do is what we would expect from everyone at this committee meeting anyway, and that is to conduct ourselves with civility. And anything that we say, whether it's in the large group or in subgroups, that the words are polite and civil.
You don't want to fight about it?
And I think if we keep that in mind and keep the fact that we're recorded, I want to be as transparent as possible, because that has been a complaint in the past, is that there hasn't been transparency as the town hall building and town office have been discussed in the past. And I think that we need to walk the walk. And if the walk is about transparency, I think recording and publicly making it accessible is important.
So where do we proceed from here?
Well, do we
Yes.
need to re-vote on whether we're gonna record it or not?
You had a question, Paul?
I just had a comment. In the legislature, and I'm not sure if we would want to consider this, but it's food for thought. A member can stand and say, Mr. President, I wish to be removed from the record on my further comments, or something like along that line.
Mhm.
It's almost always granted. Normally, it's at the end of the session when you get up and say, the First Lady of Parkman is a wonderful person. She's here now. And
That's going on the
all
record.
stand. That type of thing. And like I said, so if someone is, I guess I'm a little uncomfortable if somebody is really uncomfortable here. That kind of bothers me, if somebody is. And I guess that's something you might want to consider. If I wish to speak off the record, is usually what someone says.
I do agree with you that if there is someone on the committee that is uncomfortable with being recorded, then it should be no recording, publicly recorded. I mean, Melissa can record because it helps her to review the minutes. But if there are people uncomfortable, I fear that what's going to end up happening is they might still come to the meetings, but they will not voice their opinion.
Right.
And I think that's more valuable at this point.
That's exactly what was expressed to me by a party.
Yeah, I would rather have this be productive and move forward in a way that's going to get results and have everybody's input. And if that means that we don't record, then I'm for not doing the
It's-
public recording.
It's sad. I have heard a lot of people in business that didn't want to speak out because they're afraid it would hurt their business. And people would find out what they were saying and all of that type of thing. And I find that very sad, that people feel that they can't be involved in what's going on in the world. And I guess that from my standpoint, I would be in favor of allowing someone to stop the recording while they were speaking.
So
If you want to
continue
speak up-
recording, and if you do not want to be
If you
recorded,
want to speak
I
off
can
the record,
possibly-
just shut off the machine and let them speak off the record.
I can pause on demand if
Okay.
needed.
And
Yeah.
that way,
Just
there's no
give me a
recording.
heads up and I can pause
If you
it.
record it and something, and you know how things happen. Joe blow down the street, finds out about it, and he's mad at Sally, and
Do those
On the top
comments
row,
get
grab for
recorded in the
domestic
minutes then, though?
No.
No, I just do like an overview of each section we talked about. Not,
That person's gonna have to say, I wanna not be recorded.
raise
And-
your hand and do this.
Yeah, that
The
works.
town,
And
the
it's,
selectmen do that?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Oh, wow.
Called an executive session.
Yes.
and there's no judgment if you need
We
to
aren't under those
pause.
rules, though.
Right,
Not
right,
in this
you know.
committee, we aren't under those rules.
No.
And perhaps what
And
we,
there's a very narrow scope for executive session.
No, I'm just.
Yes.
When I've been hearing, they may be
I'm not
violated
saying
once in
we
a while.
and the other thing too is we could say if we are going to do small group work, that the recording stops because it's a buzz
yeah.
and it would
Yeah.
just,
And I, the last one I kind of debated. I'm like, oh, should I? Because no one can really make out what they're saying anyway. But I thought about cutting it out, but I'm like, I'm just gonna leave it in for now. But I mean, if someone does want that cut out, I could go back and cut out the small group work because there was a lot of cross chatter, and I don't think you could really follow it anyway.
I'd be in favor of that. So,
So we're in favor, let me just clarify, we're in favor of recording, and if you do not want to be recorded, raise your hand and make that known, and we'll stop the recording. If you're uncomfortable.
and if we're doing small group work.
In small group work, we'll just shut the recording off, because it won't be able to be heard anyway. So is this a
Say that
unanimous
way.
decision? Everybody in favor?
Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
That's how we will proceed.
Very good.
Item number 2.
Remember a couple of things,
Okay, item number 3. We were divided into subcommittees, and everybody had some homework to do. And I guess at this point, we'll just go down through the list one at a time and get our reports from subcommittees. Diane has posted some of the work that was done, has actually printed it, I believe, right?
Oh, well, I didn't print it all
You
because
just kept it all, okay.
my budget can't afford the ink and paper.
So, we'll start with reports from subcommittees, and we'll start with Dennis on the building needs. My dad Jerry's not here tonight, he's sick. And didn't want to bring it for all of us to share.
Many thanks.
Thank you, Jerry. I didn't realize exactly who was on my committee. The only names that were signed up on this initially were Kelly and Jerry and me. And
Phil.
well, he wasn't signed up on this original sheet, and it came through in the stuff that we printed off today, and it shows his name on it, so I'm a little remiss on that, but, I'll report what I've got to report.
Okay?
Tried to get up on the roof, the hatch was not openable. Whether it was froze down or there's too much snow on it, I'm not sure. Still need to get on that roof, and maybe I need to see if we can Shanghai your truck for a couple hours, because I wasn't successful getting up through the hatch. I do have, if anybody's interested,
Oh yeah.
Brent, if that's of interest to anybody, I've got my hands on that.
I'll take a
And
picture of it.
we have some square footage and some things there to work with. As far as the insurance, I had asked Patrick to check on that. Two elements of insurance. Number one, why do we need to keep, why were we prohibited from turning on the electricity if they weren't insuring us? And I have not got straight answers on that. The other question was, if we wanted to initiate some volunteer work to go in and do some of the smaller things that could be done, could we do so? Is it possible to get liability insurance for that? I approached through Patrick, and I didn't get answers from him. I did talk with Michael Wark, and we recording this?
You wanna pause it?
I can pause.
He questioned why we would want to do that with a foundation that's so far gone. So until we fix the foundation, he basically didn't see any need of doing anything on the inside.
Mhm.
And that's
Right.
the,
Which that is a singular person's
One
view.
opinion.
right,
That is one opinion.
right. So that's the long and the short of that.
So in your tour of trying to get to the roof, you walked through you went up in the
Yep,
attic,
yep.
as I did that day.
Yep, yep. You know, I've got the engineer's report with all the anomalies listed on it. Many of them are piddly-diddly things.
Mm-hmm.
Nitpicky.
Nitpicky, yes. Okay, you got 3 or 4 wheelbarrows full of old slate shingles in the attic. Big deal. You know, 3 or 4 guys in a couple 5-gallon buckets in an hour's time that could be taken care of. Light fixtures over the voting booths that are not shielded. Okay. Yeah, you got a bare fluorescent bulb out there, and if somebody's 8'2", they might hit their head on it. Okay, we can replace the light fixtures. That's not rocket science. It's not
Fire
megabucks.
extinguishers and so on.
That's relatively minor things that could be done.
They do have sleeves that can go over them too. We had to do that at Head Start.
Yeah.
You could replace it, or you could just put like sleeves over.
Right. You know, that's relatively minor.
Easy.
There were some wires that are exposed in the second up behind the stage. There's some, and then they ran a wire across the balcony to get lighting down to the voting area, community room. There are some wires in the cellar that they say are exposed. I thought everybody had exposed wires in their cellar. I didn't realize that was a no-no.
Yeah.
How do you
Okay,
keep from them being exposed?
well,
Conduit.
conduit or put something over them. I'm not sure. There's a secondary circuit breaker box up in the back by the balcony, up in the far southeast corner, in that little room back there. And there are some wires that come in there and they are exposed. Well, okay. We could build a little chase or something with a couple of boards and shield those so that they're not exposed. You could, if you want to get real radical, you could rip them out of the box and put them in conduit and put them back in. I don't see the need of it, but you know, if that's the issue, that can be done. Several of the other things, of course, the biggest issue is the foundation. You know, the brickwork is cracked, and there's varying opinions on that as to how serious that is. Yes, it needs to be fixed, no doubt about that. Whether we just want to shore it up and rip those brick out and replace them, whether we want to go radical and set up forms to pour concrete, both sides of it, I don't know. The foundation isn't, for a 100-year-old building, it is not that bad in my estimation. There's not a lot of water coming through there. Little here, and a couple seeps in a couple spots. It will never be a building that is efficient and easy to heat. You got a 3,500 square foot basement that's uninsulated to start with. You know, let's face it. Let's in reality, and then first floor. Okay, the office side, the north side has been torn out and insulated. The south side has not. So there's no insulation in the south side at all, as far as we know.
The walls, right?
The walls, the exterior walls. The east and west ends, I'm not sure how much of that was done. a lot of it was torn out, the plaster and laths were torn out, and it was sheetrocked.
Right.
So, okay, that is a great plus for us in those points, because we don't have to deal with the plaster and all of that business. There are a number of other things, some are relatively minor. Some others will get kind of complicated. The balconies are sagged. You know, once we get into the upstairs, it goes to a whole, excuse the pun, another level, because the issues and the problems up there are manifold. First floor, we can get by relatively easy. If we're going to really use it, there is insulation above the first floor on both sides, on the library side and on the other side. That's fairly well taken care of. If we were going to rent out or reuse in some form the library portion of it, probably we need to rip out that exterior wall and insulate it, or blow insulation, one or the other. And there are a number of things that are good about it. You know, you have good access. We have handicap bathrooms that are ADA accessible. Okay. We have a boiler down there with 5 zones on it. But, you know, let's admit that no matter what we do to this building, we can upgrade it, we can help it a lot. It has single pane windows, and there are some storm windows somewhere around. I didn't see those in my travels, but I think there are the old storm windows that you have to put on manually if somebody wants to spend a day every spring and fall putting them on. Nobody has for years and years. They're old single pane windows, and somebody's got the clear plastic that they've taped around the inside, which is a help. Let's face it, if we're really going to upgrade this building to our century, those probably have to be dealt with.
Replace them. What you're saying, replace them.
Replace them and build something like these.
Yeah. Somehow, because it's not it's not going to be economical to heat it if we don't.
Huge heat loss out of those old ones.
Sure, there is.
Got
Yeah.
high ceilings too.
High ceilings.
Dressings work there?
These window dressings,
Dressings
Something
work?
like this.
There's something like that on the inside of them down there, which helps, but
These are pretty good, they're double pane plastic.
Yeah.
They're pretty good.
There are a number of things that we could easily deal with. For a few $1,000s we could take care of them. Once you get into, if you want to do windows, okay, that gets into some bucks. If it were mine and I had to live in it and heat it, I would insulate that cellar.
As it's repaired.
Yeah. If as I say, if I had to do it, it'll take just over $2,000 worth of styrofoam just to do the perimeter of the walls, and then we'd have to install it and do some framing and things to do it. But just the styrofoam alone.
Might get some donations.
Well, I priced it this week, and that's where we would be at on that.
You said that was 2,000 roughly.
Yeah.
You're talking 3,000 or 4,000 for the whole job by the time you pay labor.
Probably just to put some just to semi-insulate in the a 3,500 square foot cold basement is going to suck a lot of heat out of a building. Let's face it.
Well,
And
if you put styrofoam all the way around, that would be a help.
it'll help. It would help. Is it like you would build a new house today? No. But it would help. Upstairs, as soon as you get upstairs, there's no insulation anywhere up there, ceiling or walls. We're just looking at deep pockets once you get upstairs.
That's cold space.
Can you insulate the basement in a way that doesn't affect the foundation, the bowing of the foundation?
We're
Where that
talking
was an
insulating
issue?
the outside of the foundation or the inside?
Well, I would do it inside. Some people would
I
do it
think she's
outside.
remember when they did the bulkhead and didn't insulate it the way they were supposed to, that caused.
Yeah,
problem in that
there's an
area.
issue there, and I'm not 100% convinced on that, but
Okay.
it,
you know a little bit about that.
Well, I would recommend doing the outside if possible, you know, you dig down below the frost level.
Yeah.
The outside of the basement, I did, wasn't it cantilever forward?
Yes, I believe so.
Eliminate
So
any
you can
frost
only-
issues
you can
with
only
the
get down.
foundation.
Yeah, so, yeah, that, if you're gonna dig around the outside, okay, then, you know,
That's gonna cost more.
yeah, we'd get into quite a lot of money there.
How about spray foam?
Excuse me?
Spray foam.
Spray foam?
On the inside, you could do it.
Very
Uh,
expensive. I have a friend of mine who owns a spray foam company.
Yeah.
And I asked him what it would cost to spray foam my 24 by 24 garage,
Yeah,
10,000.
right,
So I put rolled insulation over
right.
Now, you had some input too. Lance and I had a discussion. We were talking about this horsehair plaster and whether or not
Right.
it had to go.
Right.
Lance contacted the people. Share what you have.
that. Did you bring the letter?
I did.
When we were taking a tour of the town hall, we had an engineer with us, and he sat right there and told me that every bit of horsehair plaster has to be torn out because of asbestos.
So,
But they're,
so now, horses have asbestos in their hair now, or how's that work?
Yeah,
Nope, I don't have it, Lance.
I got it in my email.
They must have mixed it in the plaster.
No.
So I emailed
this
the
is-
code enforcement, all the rules for us come through the state fire marshal's office, they handle all of that. And, so I sent that question down, and I got this response, this is from Gregory Day. He's the Assistant Fire Marshal, Inspection and Prevention Division. He says, typically horsehair plaster does not contain asbestos. However, there have been instances where a contractor mixed asbestos while making the plaster. The possibility cannot be ruled out without proper testing of the plaster, but there are no specific requirements that I am aware of for the removal of this product. Actually, plaster in an archaic wall type that is approved as a 1-hour assembly if the design professional certifies it has no holes or cracks. Most usually leave it in place, take advantage of the properties for a rated wall or ceiling. So, it doesn't have to go.
The information I found also about asbestos in horsehair plaster, basically it was primarily introduced in the 1920 to 1970 era. We are prior to that. I would still think that we ought to have a test, get a test kit and get some, make sure of it.
Yeah, if we tear into it.
Yeah, and if we have to do something with the downstairs with the library part of it, even whether we rip that out to insulate it and sheetrock it, or whether we blow it, but we will still be tearing into those walls and removing partitions and things like that. So I would think we ought to get a sample downstairs and a sample upstairs and send it and see what we're dealing with, just to make sure,
I think
cover our backsides.
lead to.
Wouldn't it be best where the walls that are intact, that have no problem at all, to leave intact and try to go around the thought of ripping them out? Where it is an old building and it's on a, it's this historic building, and you could blow the insulation on the inside and you could do the painting. If they're intact, why mess with it? That's gonna be a lot more money, and if it doesn't have to be replaced, as long as it's not cracked, and if it's not cracked, why crack it?
Well, that's the
thing.
that's the question. Do you insulate from the inside or do you insulate from the outside?
I would
It was
think
really popular in the 70s. I remember every house was full of cork.
it does settle.
Yeah, it does.
And the other related issue to that is the lead paint
Yes.
side of it. They're not as strict on a public building as they are a residence as far as lead paint. Any place that has children in it, then that raises the flags more. The code, what I was reading is if you have children likely present more than 3 hours a day, then that elevates the requirements. But
Now, you walked through this, and I understood the first floor had the trim replaced and places where lead paint would be present have already been changed out.
Well, maybe.
'Cause my father, I think he
It
said
was
he
gutted.
built all brand new trim and they gutted the whole.
It was
Yeah,
gutted.
I remember that.
Okay, but you've still got the walls that are painted. You plaster walls.
In the town office area, they're all sheetrock.
Right,
Yeah, the
right.
community room, the hallway, the
Right.
bathrooms, and the town office were all new construction.
Right. Those should be fine.
Yep.
The library side of it,
Correct.
Right.
we've got
not.
issues probably.
So are you suggesting that we test for asbestos? If it's not present, sheetrock over what's there and leave it as a fire barrier?
Well, I'm not
Insulation
sure
properties?
which way we're gonna go with insulation. If we're gonna do anything to make it relevant to today's society, we've got to insulate it, period. Whether we do it from inside or outside,
At least the first floor.
yeah.
Sandy?
So I take it from what you're telling us, everything sounds fairly easy, other than the biggest concern is the roof, which you already spoke of last time, with the foundation.
Those are the two
As-
biggers.
As you were saying, Mike has an issue with the foundation, Mr. Wark. And if he has an issue with that, we're gonna see that resistance from every single person. I think we need to start at the foundation, cause that's where you start all houses. And we need to get an estimate, is it unrealistic to be able to fix it, and what's the cost gonna be? So we need to figure out how to get somebody in there and get a number on insulating it and fixing the foundation
Right.
first. And then worry about all this little piddly stuff and the
Yeah.
other things that come down the road, because if the foundation is gonna cost $2 million, which we know it's not, then there's no sense even going to the rest of what everybody else is doing
Right,
for all the other little things.
right.
So we gotta figure out how we can get somebody in there
Well-
that can give us a real estimate of what it's gonna cost to do those two
We
things. that you
can
mentioned.
get in if we find the right person who wants to come in and give us some prices.
Mhm.
I can get in,
The right person.
and I
It's
don't
gonna
know.
be approved by the board, is that what you're saying?
I'm not sure who in this area wants to do a job like that. I
The
don't know.
certification.
So my father, I think, is the person to ask. He goes to church in Garland, and they pick the church up, they put it in the parking
Right.
lot, pour the foundation, and put it back on top of the foundation.
Right,
So
Sounds
what's
fine.
that?
And
Yeah.
he's the one that hired the contractors that did it.
No,
Right.
but he's saying that's just what they-
That would be a good resource, just to ask
right,
if we could get that same person to look at this building.
yeah.
Robbie Haley is also someone who has expressed an interest in being consulted about the
Right.
foundation.
Right. I thought
Is
he
he
was gonna come.
willing to do something with it if we?
Well, he's retired, but he can certainly be
His knowledge.
consulted. His
Good connections.
knowledge, his knowledge base is pretty vast.
Yeah.
And he does like getting his fingers in concrete. So,
And they would
it's
accept
not
an
40 grand.
estimate from him if he said, well, this is what they say it's gonna.
I
run.
don't know if they would accept an estimate because he's not in the business anymore, but he certainly could advise.
I
And
think we
then
need-
the other thing too, all things basementy. They are somebody who could come in and they would be very, very willing and happy to come in and give you all kinds of prices for shoring up, because we had them come into the Historical Society building, the museum, to give us some prices, and they'll do a per foot how much it would cost to shore up a bow in a foundation wall.
Okay.
And they also, they encapsulate to prevent moisture and all that stuff. But if you wanted to do, they are a source and they are legit.
Do you
And they-
recall the cost
Oh,
to have them estimate it?
the cost I think it was about $100 a linear foot in what we had to have a bow taken care of.
Would
And
they
we're-
charge for the estimate though?
0.
TC Hafford, is that? what you're
Yes,
talking about?
they did not charge a thing, and they came in with a big smile. It was a guy who came in. He knows me, and he sat me right down, and we went through all kinds of stuff, and he took measurements.
If you give me a name, I'll,
I will send it to you.
okay.
Yep,
So
definitely.
they're certified and could be somebody that could give an estimate and follow through with fixing it.
Yeah, and it granted it's probably going to be one that's going to smack us right between the eyes in
Oh, yeah.
terms of a price, but it's legit.
We need legit.
It's a real number.
Okay, so I'll send
There's
you,
no point in fooling ourselves. We need real numbers.
That's right.
What about?
But would they
Johnny Jack's-
probably give us options?
Yes.
as to-
The late
Yes.
Johnny Jackson's son.
Oh,
Johnny Jackson, before he died, was really interested in this project.
oh,
Yeah.
With his,
Rusty.
Breaks my heart.
Rusty's not taking, as of right now, he told me he's not taking on any jobs.
Would he be interested in it because it's the town hall?
yeah, 'cause his,
I don't know if he has the
Father
resources
was
to
really-
do something like that.
he's a one-man show.
The guy up in Abbott is the guy that normally moves the buildings, and then Joe Auger, and then he sublets the concrete usually to Jim French
I
Construction.
said
Very
I'm
hassle.
friends with him.
Yeah, so Joe Auger will come in and lift and move the building or do whatever we gotta do with the building, and then he subcontracts to French or one of the others to pour. These are all things, if we could get through getting some estimates without spending a pile of money and had real solid
Right.
numbers,
Right.
that just strengthens our case for
Yeah.
saving the building.
Yeah, we,
If they're free, if they don't charge all things basement, we also have 3 customers that are very good friends that do foundations that if I asked them, they might not charge for an
Right,
estimate.
right, you know, give me some names of people, you know, we can get
Jimmy
in.
French,
Yeah.
Lancaster Foundations.
Who?
Lancaster, Sean
Sean.
Lancaster Foundations, we're good friends with both those people. I have a way of getting things out of people, happy to ask. Ask Lance, he knows I'm good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All things basement-y, I like that.
TC Hafford Basement Systems is that guy's,
Oh, that commercial.
You said Johnson Foundation?
and Johnson Foundation.
What about R.H. Higgins, or Higgins, H.A. Higgins? Farm?
There's a
Mhm.
lot of concrete guys.
He's a good customer of ours.
I think what we need though
I'll
is we're all stabbing in the dark at this,
Right.
this foundation. The rest of the stuff, you know, the fire extinguishers and the exit signs and
Right.
all that stuff is just,
It's
Even
so
the painting.
piddly.
we really need to
Plaster is
focus
just
on foundation,
really
roof
small.
and insulation.
Yeah.
Those are the three, that's what you're coming up with
Right.
as a synopsis of your report.
yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
How bad was the floor on the second floor from the leak? Is that-
It's one area that's leaking. It's about over where you go into the door of the town office, where you stand at the door. If you would go straight up over there, you look at the suspended ceiling that's in there, you can see where the water's pitted that for off and on for quite a while. The metal ceiling overhead has rusted quite a bit. The floorboards are cupped underneath there. You know, Patrick went in there after that big rainstorm, and there was ice on the floor. There was a skating rink upstairs. It's dried out now. I'm not sure, without getting up there. It seems to be where the flat section adjoins the slate side.
Right.
And I don't know what the flashing system is up there. It's a gravel and tarred roof that was done in '92, and it's supposed to be done every 20 years. It's supposed to have a 20-year lifespan.
Do you think it's membrane or is it just gravel and tar?
It gravel and Jerry says it's gravel and tar. I have not been up on it, so I don't know. But I tried to get up through the bulkhead. I couldn't get it open.
Right,
It
yeah.
probably froze down.
It was either froze down or too much ice on it. And even if you get up there with the ice and snow on it, I'm not sure I can tell.
Right.
Get out to the edge and see what's there.
Yeah, yeah.
It's gonna be a spring thing.
Yeah, I'm kind of inclined, I wondered if where we had that big blowing rain that came in from the south, if it was blowing up underneath the slate on the sides. But it did not leak on the south side. So I'm kind of thinking, no, that's not
Flashing.
the issue. It's up where the flat section joins, and it's, the worst part of it is right up, well, as I say, if you were standing at the counter where you do your license your car and look right straight overhead, that's about where the leak is coming.
Mhm. Right in the transition flashing from the
Somewhere
slate to
around
the-
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, it's coming into that tin ceiling, and it may be running.
So, anybody have any questions for Dennis before we move on? We've pretty much,
One, are you gonna you're gonna do the estimate this week? You're gonna try to start working on that?
I'll see who I can contact.
Okay, are you gonna get an estimate for trying to repair how it is in the old way it is right now and replacing it both? To try to,
We'll, s-
yeah, to fix it either way?
we'll see who shows up and what they're interested in doing.
Yeah, okay, so you're gonna.
Yeah,
that's
I
all.
think that's a good way
Okay.
to approach it. Just
Yeah.
Yeah,
Number
you
one, see if there's
recommend?
any interest, and see if they're interested in coming and talking to us about
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Do you need help contacting any of them to see if they're interested?
probably.
Who would you like me to talk to? The three I mentioned?
Well, if you get me a name and a number from the All Things Basement,
She's gonna get you
yeah,
that.
and I don't, Sean Lancaster, I know who he is, Jim French, I know.
Higgins,
I know the name, but I don't know him personally.
he's one of our
Yeah,
customers.
yeah, if you,
Which ones do you want me to get a hold of?
well, if you know them personally, go ahead and ask them with the ones that you know. I,
Higgins, Jimmy,
Johnson.
Johnson,
you know,
and Lancaster.
I've been in New Hampshire for 25 years, I know guys over there, they're
It's
not
gonna
coming this
cost
far.
them a lot
That
more
would
to
be
come
cost
here.
effective.
So you can do all things based on me. I'll get a hold of Higgins, Jimmy, French, Johnson's Foundation, and Lancaster, and I'll see if any of them are willing to donate us a realistic estimate.
Yeah. See if any,
Okay.
see what they're interested in doing, I don't know.
Most contractors don't charge for an estimate anyway,
Yeah, some
if
do.
they're looking to catch the job.
Until you get into a big job like that.
I just
But
know
let's-
you've got a
let's
lot,
move
I'm
forward.
not trying to take anything away from you, I know you've got a lot on your plate, and you've done a lot of work, I'm just trying to help you.
No, I'll take all the help I can get.
Okay, let's move forward. Next subcommittee is Paul Davis and warrant articles.
We met, excuse me, last Monday evening up to Jeff and Sandy's office, and myself and Patty, Sandy, Jeff, Priscilla.
Jerry.
Yeah, that's right, Jerry was there, this young lady here was there, and I don't remember who else, if there was anyone else.
Jim Wood.
He came
Yep.
after we
Yeah.
got going. We talked about what we wanted to put on the warrant, how we wanted to word it, and we came up with what we thought was something that those of us who were there agreed on, and I think Jeff will have some copies of it. We did have a long discussion. I had asked Jim White to come, he's a state representative, and he has access to the Maine Municipal Association. And he was heard, and I thought that he did some work that way.
He came back and spoke with Jeff. You wanna address what Jim had to say here, or?
So Jim attended and listened to what we said, and the reason for asking for his input is he is in state level government and had the contacts and resources to try to help guide us through it. So we had asked Jim to listen in, put in his 2 cents worth, and then we wanted him to present it to Maine Municipal. And Jim had some of his colleagues look at it, and they were of the opinion that Maine Municipal represents the town. And it would be a conflict of interest for them to represent an ad hoc committee's petition. So he kind of bounced it off the powers that be that he knew. That was their opinion, and he brought that back to me and wanted to know what I wanted him to do. So at that point, the people he did have read it said that it looked like a sound, solid document. That's as far as we went with what Jim had to do. And I think in thinking through it, his advice is probably right, which is why we asked for it.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to know, how to do this and make sure it was done right. So as a group, we refined and we brought all our ideas together. And I can read to you what we had come up with, and then we'll all discuss it as a large group. So what we had written is this: will the voters of Sangerville, Maine authorize the town to allocate up to $440,000 from the town's reserve funds? The funds allocated will be used to complete renovations required to obtain municipal insurance on the town hall with the intended use of the first floor for the town office, voting, and meeting space. The required repairs dictated by the insurance company would be put out to bid with a 1-year goal to reopen. Project to be overseen by a committee consisting of the following people. And what we did is we just took the list that the selectmen had chosen for this committee, and we used those people on that list, which,
For the fire committee,
For
not
the-
this committee, the one that they wanted to run.
correct, the original selectmen's list, which included Dennis Campbell, Jerry Peters, Patty Davis, Lance Johnson, and Diane. In our conversations with Diane, she wasn't interested in taking that role. And I penciled myself in, and I'm really torn on where we're going with town politics, whether or not I want to be on this committee myself, if this was to be something we decided to do. So as a group, that's what we had come up with as a citizens initiative to file with the town and have as a warrant article at our town meeting. Any comments?
Did you wanna ask if somebody else was interested in taking your place? Is that what you're saying, or you're saying?
No, at this point, I want to just discuss
Whether they wanted.
whether or not we're headed in the right direction with the question in the petition.
How was the $400 and some $1,000 figure arrived at, and do we believe that the necessary repairs can be accomplished with that amount of funding?
So how that was arrived at was, we've been told with the other options that that's what we have in reserve money without dipping into budget money. We're told there's near to $1 million or a little over $1 million in the checkbook, and $440,000 of it is reserve money. This is just a rough draft to start in the right direction to put it together. However, if we want this on the town meeting warrant at the end of March or 1st of April, then this needs to get happening. So this was a draft we put together as a group to present to the group and see if we all agreed with that direction, or if people had different ideas.
The process to present that, we need to get signatures or
So what has to happen is we need to have our version of it written. It needs to be brought into the town clerk. She has to proofread it, validate it, print it. We have to collect signatures, which is 10% of the last governor's race voters.
I
And
already have that list of voters.
And then, once we've collected our signatures, we have to meet with her, and we have to be notarized. She has to notarize, and it has to be, swear to the signatures each person collects, and then the document has to be notarized. Then she has to print it, research it, and file it, and then it's got to be done 14 days before the meeting. And it's her responsibility, under state law, with her job title, she is responsible to do this. So if we come in with this, she can't say, no, I don't want to do that. It's also her responsibility to research the question, make sure it's legal. And then it's her responsibility to print the heading for us to collect signatures on an official sheet. We collect them.
we collect.
We collect whoever volunteers to collect signatures, and then that sheet is returned all at the same time with your signatures, and it is notarized. You swear that you witnessed each signature and you notarize the document, and then that's turned into her, and then she goes down through and validates all the signatures, and once it's validated, it can be posted as a warrant. And the selectmen have the opportunity to reject it for up to 90 days. So they could say, no, we're not gonna allow this to go on our warrant for the town meeting, if they chose. But they have to give us a special town meeting within 90 days if they opt not to. And it says in there, if you're within 60 days of a town meeting, that it's recommended that they get it onto this warrant as long as we do our part.
And our town meeting is when?
Last
April
of March or 1st of April, they haven't established the date yet.
It's the last Saturday in
So how many signatures would that be if it's 10% of the ones who voted?
It was 686, so you're gonna need at least 70, I believe.
Easily done.
Yeah,
You ought to get 150.
definitely.
Yeah, you always have to get more, because if somebody scribbles their name, it's not legible, it
Oh,
can't be
it's gonna be
counted.
legible, whoever's,
Mhm.
making sure they
Well-
get it printed and signed and make sure it's legible.
Different people read it different.
That they're gonna
So do we
sign.
have any
Yeah.
discussion on how this is written, any additional input? People do like it, don't like it? I think this is time sensitive, and I think we need to move forward with getting something done and onto the warrant. My concern is, according to the January 3rd Selectmen's meeting, they're gonna have a warrant article for Mr. Hutchins to buy that building. And I'm concerned if we don't have another option for the people, I'm concerned with losing the building. I think we need to have something pulled together. I think as a committee, we need to come together and agree on it and get it going.
But can they do that without, they'd have to submit it out to bid. They can't select just
No,
him.
they don't.
They don't?
It's my understanding from them that they don't have to, but
If it's under a certain
Because
amount
we
of money.
voted years ago, it was like 30,000, under 30,000. That could be less. But we
The-
voted on this a long time ago.
the
what
number
we could
that I-
sell.
like on the bucket loader was over 50,000 and we had to approve it as a
Right.
town. The bulldozer was under 20,000, it did not need to be
That's
approved.
right, yeah.
So-
And the number they're throwing around is
If
in
you
the
sell it under
20s,
30,000,
the building.
then it-
20,000.
Oh,
Yes.
That's
But
what
they can
Sam
put
has
it on
offered.
the thing, they can put a warrant on the thing for you to vote on. You as a person and voting in your town have to vote no that you don't wanna sell it, if you don't wanna sell it to it.
That
So as
is
long
a
as it's cheap, then.
very poor way to sell public property.
Oh, absolutely.
Very poor way. You put it out to bid and you let the public have dibs on it, no matter who they are. They have a
Correct.
chance. If Joe blow up the streets and is a carpenter and he wants to come in, go through it and say, yeah, gee, I'd like to buy this, he ought to have the opportunity.
Correct, I had a person from another
Everybody
town
should.
that came in and said,
Not just
well,
Sandwich.
I
like
heard that they were
Sandwich.
gonna sell it,
Yeah.
and he was like, well, that doesn't give me fair opportunity if I wanted to buy it, so it could cause another lawsuit. which
And I think too, I think anybody that was present at the special town meeting regarding what to do with our town office, if you were present at that meeting and you felt like that it was the will of the town to sell this building, I think you weren't paying attention.
yeah.
In 92, when grant money was received, because it's on the National Historic Register, isn't there some stipulation that once that's received, then you are committed
You mean on the National Registry?
to preserve, because, and I've searched through the old observers, I found many references to the award of the grant money in the mid-90s, but nothing specifically where the source was from, because I think once you've received the money for a National Historic Register, then you are committed to
Yeah.
You have a
preserving that.
responsibility.
You're given that in this, you
There
don't
was
think so?
no grant from the National Registry, none. And a majority of the money that was raised as line items in the budget at town meeting. And that to me was key, is that it was town support through finances to get the job done. There were years that Jerry and I were standing up and asking for $30,000, and the town said, yeah. It was nary a blink of an eye. It was incredibly supported. And
It became a sprinkler system.
Well, no, I mean, we did multiple years.
Yeah.
And we also had, money that was set aside in a specific account for the elevator, because we were going, the plan was to finish first floor and then go to second. And in order to get second floor as a viable public option, you had to have ADA compliance with accessibility. And so we put into the plans, an alcove in the community room that was going to be the shaft for an elevator to the second floor, so that it would come out on the right-hand side of the stage. And then the select board at the time ended up allocating that money for a sprinkler system instead, and they gutted the elevator budget.
We have, from 1992 through 2019, we spent $416,000 on the building. The biggest year was 2005, we spent $127,000. That was the foundation work mostly. Let's see, 2015, siding, record room front doors, and heat pumps. That was $62,000.
Which is going now.
So we've spent a lot of money on it, and I can understand the sentiments of people, even of the select board, saying it's a money pit.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a big old building.
Mm-hmm.
It's 7,600 square feet.
Yep.
You got a 3,500 foot basement down there that's totally uninsulated and cold. We've got when the driveway was put through between the fire station and the town hall, it goes right up against the side of the building. There are issues that need to be addressed, and that one isn't even on the list of anomalies. That's
Right.
just another
thing, yep.
issue. I was amazed when we went in there. The safe that's in there, they cut a hole in it to get access to it. Somebody either couldn't get in or lost the combination or whatever. There's a hole cut right in the front door.
And that was a nice safe.
And that's a beautiful piece.
It was a
was
beautiful piece, and
Something about it's
They
fire
locked it
resistant
in
for up to
for a long
2 hours or something, it was saying
Yeah.
too.
I don't know who or when,
It should be so.
but
I know.
But it's a fact, and we just need to move on from it.
we
that's all.
do.
Okay, so in your first presentation with Building Needs, Dennis, you started with the insurance information conversation.
You,
Are you moving to that now?
I think you,
I-
what about the warrant?
you didn't finish your warrant.
Okay.
Agree, don't agree,
Yeah.
we're gonna pass it, gonna do it, what are we gonna?
Is there any other conversation about the warrant? Does everybody agree with what's written and agree with going for signatures?
Have a vote.
I wish we had some more concrete figures
Mm-hmm.
before we throw that figure out
At
there.
least for the foundation and the roof, at
Yeah.
least.
We all felt the same exact way. We've been told that money is in reserve and that money is available. That's why we used that number.
That would obviously get us a long way toward where we need to be.
That's correct.
But we don't know at this
Who
point.
knows?
That's right.
His dad said he felt fairly confident that the repairs on that list could be funded to with that amount of money and the volunteer work. That's why another reason we picked that amount.
And
I would be cautious about some words in here, having the funds allocated will be used to complete renovations required. That's a sticky wicket.
It's not gonna.
It's not gonna complete the renovations because we've got roof, we've got foundation, we've got electrical.
To address instead of complete.
Well, to begin renovations, required to obtain municipal insurance. on the town hall with the intended use of the first floor for the town office voting and meeting space within a 1-year goal.
Mhm.
Required repairs will be put out to bid. I don't think that we should have dictated by the insurance company. It's just required repairs
Mhm.
will be put out to bid, project to be overseen by a committee consisting of the following.
Mhm.
But I do believe that,
Mhm.
that we're locking ourselves in by using the words to complete.
Mhm.
Because you know darn well, next town meeting, they're gonna say, we're still not in there.
Agreed.
We're not complete.
So-
How are we gonna fix it?
And this is where I was going with the insurance
Please.
question I had earlier.
Please fix it.
Because we didn't get the
Didn't
answer
mean
to
to
whether or
sound
not we could bring
like-
contractors in.
Fix it.
Well,
That's where I was going with the
I'll-
insurance
I'll-
question.
I'll get, if we get somebody who's interested in giving us a bid, we'll get in there.
Okay, that's what I wanted to
Any of
know.
mine interested, you'll hear from me.
Okay.
So from there,
I'll be
what I
on it
wanna
tomorrow.
know is, do we try to make this happen in the next week or two if we can? This, to me, this is very time sensitive, this,
Yes.
getting
Priority.
getting this onto the warrant is job one. And so back to the insurance question, you do feel confident if Johnson Foundations wanted to come
Yep.
and place a bid on it, that you can get them through the door so they can see it?
Michael said he would cooperate with things that we need to do. I told him we needed access to the building and any reports, anything, and he said, we'll make available what we can. So he showed an interest in working with that side of it. I think he'll balk when you throw out that money to spend on it, but he's,
Mhm.
at this point, he's gonna give us access to.
Here's
do
the
what we
strong
need to do.
reality, here's the strong reality to the whole thing. We've been 8 or 10 years since we put a dime in the building, and shame on us for not maintaining our building. And I think we need to clearly make the public know that we've let it run into the ground, and it's our responsibility to pick up the pieces.
Holding them accountable.
Well,
Yeah, accountability, that's,
The,
Can I ask, Dennis, that list you got there,
yes.
is that actual repairs to the building, or does that include heat and lights and
No,
putting the
no,
driveway?
no, this is repairs that were done, foundation work, roof repair. In 2010, they spent $7,500 on the roof, and I don't know who or what. John Firth Builders in 2013, Victorian millwork, $50,000 was spent.
That was on the stained glass windows, I think, and trim.
in the trim.
In 2015, they spent $62,600 for siding, building the record room, front doors, and heat pumps.
A lot of that sounds like new construction.
Yeah.
You're talking about stained glass, and you're talking about
Yep.
new
Yep.
rooms. and-
Yep.
Trim.
So it wasn't maintenance, it was new construction.
Insulation.
Well, some of it,
And
yeah.
they're calling it
Redo.
maintenance.
Well, roof repair was in there, and the
Roof
foundation work.
repairs, maintenance, and
Yeah.
the foundation.
Yeah, 2005, they spent 127,000 on basic, mostly foundation work.
Would they have had to spend it if they'd heated the foundation? That's a question I don't expect you to answer.
Yeah.
I'd just like to make a comment about, if we're going to rewrite this, we need to get with doing it.
She's
I'm
doing
busy,
it.
I'm busy.
She's doing
Doing it right now? Okay, good.
She's doing it.
Then I wanna just bring up a couple more things. I think if we can find an attorney that'll look at it and give us a nod on his head, they probably would wanna write a letter for us without a big check, but have somebody look at it.
Does
The person
somebody
that I
have a
think of
connection?
that worked for the city of Bangor, he was the city's attorney for a long time, Eric Stumpfeld, right out in East Sangerville. He's always had an interest in the town and whatever.
He's a citizen.
Does anybody
Wonderful
have
thing.
Yeah, he's a
access to
citizen.
him
Yeah.
or to get this to him? or
I know him quite well, I
Get ready
haven't
to
talked to
it.
him for a long time.
I think Paul just volunteered.
Somebody
Me
Yeah,
too.
I'll go see him. You get it written up, I'll go see him. I'll be happy
Yeah.
to. The other thing I wanted to tell you about is circulating petitions. Don't give your petition, after you've had a couple of signers, to your spouse and ask them to go get signature. You have got to raise your right hand and swear that you witness those signatures.
It's gotta be
Everyone.
the
Now,
person.
in the legislature, I saw at least a half a dozen people get in a serious trouble because they lied and they got caught. And they get in all kinds of trouble. You take a petition, you say, if there's one signature on it, and you don't want to get any more, don't give it to your husband. Don't do that. Or you get in trouble. Somebody will say, well, gee, yeah, I didn't sign that, or she didn't give me that, or
Oh, I
it
didn't
got
see
it.
her.
And when that happens,
It weakens the strength of our case collectively too.
somebody will get in trouble. I just wanted to give you folks that warning. I have seen that happen. And people lost a lot because they did that.
Maybe a reminder with everybody
And
who
the other
has
thing-
on their petitions to.
So, oh, there should be a list made of who is taking the
Circulating.
petitions and who's signing it.
Mhm.
The other thing, don't take it down to the store on top of the hill and leave it on the
Leave
counter.
it, yeah.
No,
That
no,
will
no.
not work. I have seen that happen. It doesn't work good at all. Don't do those
Then
things.
you can't read it.
Yeah.
Take it to somebody's house. I know the voters list is available, and go by it. It's probably outdated. They usually are outdated if they've been in existence 2 or 3 weeks.
I
But,
do have the list.
But she's got the list, and take a copy of it, whatever roads, broke down by streets, and go down the street, get your signatures if that's what you wanna do.
You know, if we just picked a date and said we're gonna be here to,
Come in.
for folks to come in
Oh,
to
that's
sign
a
the
great
petition, I
idea.
think you'd have them all.
That's a
Mhm.
great
I
idea.
think that's a great idea.
About 300.
Yeah, you
I think
would.
it's a
I
great
joked about that
idea.
using the old Robinson
Just
store.
advertise it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I would have-
Tom, we could all
Yes,
charge
Patty.
for that.
Yep.
It's kind of a concern in one way and not the other. I don't mind taking the petition into the town office when we're ready for it. But I know that my back will be turned and I'm out the door and the selectmen are gonna know what we're doing.
It's okay.
Can they counter us? Can they refuse to put it on the, in the town warrant?
They can.
So they can refuse it, but they have to give us a special town meeting within 90 days if we have a legitimate written warrant. So if this is done properly, within 90 days, they have to put us before the town.
It would look kind of foolish if we had XYZ overabundance of signatures for them to do such a thing.
In reality, after this meeting and this gets posted, they're gonna know what we're doing.
They already know.
They know.
They already
Right.
know.
And that's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
we're not trying to do anything secretive.
And we want them
Right.
to know.
I want them to know that I do not agree with getting rid of the town hall. I think they already know. I'm pretty sure they do.
Quite frankly, I wish they were doing this instead of us. I wish they were doing the town hall instead of us.
Yeah.
Right,
That's
right.
my opinion.
Which would be representing the voice of the people.
Well,
If you were at the last town meeting,
I think they cleared their throat real well. The last meeting.
mhm,
My understanding of last April's workshop session after their town meeting, and then what I saw in December, I thought they're going to go apply for this grant money and be able to waive free money,
mhm.
free in quotes, and I had not thought that they would also try to sell the building at a town meeting and make somebody else wait 90 days to.
That
mean,
doesn't make sense.
It's not just without local reporting, without letting people know, shining a very bright light on what's going on. So I listened to Diane, who calmed me down and said, just positive and keep the faith. And it worked in December, but it really feels like they're running down the clock on us.
Is it gonna be on the warrant that the building is being offered to be sold to this?
If you listen to the January 3rd Selectmen's meeting, it's posted on the town website. And Dale asked Mike in that meeting, what we're gonna do with the old building. They're going to write a warrant article to offer it to Mr. Hutchins, and in their words, they owe it to him, whatever that means. I don't know what that means. Yes.
In our previous set of meetings, we went round the barn several times on the 501c3 side of it.
Mhm.
If we're going to apply for grant money, then probably it needs to be handed over to a nonprofit who would oversee the restoration and the fundraising and whatever. Have we, in going with this warrant article and asking for the town to provide the money, are we saying, no, we're not gonna worry, we're not thinking about that?
No, not at all.
Isn't there
What we're saying is,
I think it's
what the intent of this
phase two.
warrant article is to put it in front of the people and give them an opportunity to vote for their old town hall being restored. It then turns it over to the hands of the committee appointed to make those decisions and how to go about doing it. We're asking for the people to say, yes, we want this building to remain in town ownership, and yes, we do want it as a town hall, a town
Let
office.
Patty explain 501, she was just saying what that idea was for is phase 2.
Yeah, I kind of thought that, to apply for the 5013C would be when we go into the second phase
Mhm.
and do the second story, because if things fall the way that we are hoping that they're gonna fall, these organizations that would give us funding can see that we have made strides to, you know, to
Stabilize
restore
the
this
building.
old building.
Restore it, save it.
That's good input. I hadn't thought of it that way, but that is good input.
You know, if they can see what we've managed to get done, and then we want them to fund us or give us money or whatever the case may be, then we'll go into phase 2.
So in other words, we have ownership in it.
We'll have ownership in
in the
it.
project.
The
Right.
only reason, really, Paul and I were someplace and we saw Sam Hutchins' dad, and he was telling us that he had gone through the town hall, that the selectmen had given him a tour of the town hall, and that Sam wanted to buy the building and put 8 apartments in that town hall.
Mhm.
The public knew nothing about this,
No,
and probably most of the public still doesn't know anything about this.
right.
Personally, I don't think we need 8 apartments across the street, but
Yeah.
who am I?
That's why I think it's really important. When we first started this committee, we talked about timelines and whatnot, and some of the developments that has happened in the last couple of select board meetings, I felt like this has become what this committee needs to do. We need to figure out a way for the people to have the option to vote for the building, whether it becomes town office or it doesn't. At the last special town meeting, the people spoke very clearly. There was no gray area in my mind what the sentiment of the town was, and they need to be able to look at a warrant and say, yes, this is what I want. Once we've got that, how we go about that from there can go in many different directions. I like your idea of allocating enough money to get ourselves, get the building back into condition and then moving forward for the second phase.
We also need to make sure that they don't vote to sell the town hall before,
Could there be 2 warrants we take out? One is not to sell the building until
We had
it gets
discussed that.
decided, hold it for a year. And figure out what everything's gonna cost and all the stuff that our meeting is doing.
The bottom line is if they put on the warrant to sell it, it's gonna be the same question. You're just gonna
Oh, it's gonna
say,
be sell or not sell.
right, it's
Yeah,
basically,
So just verbally tell everybody this is gonna be the vote.
If you vote the article down, then it doesn't.
it's done.
Okay,
I can't
how
vote
about we do a
anybody.
mailing to everybody? If this comes up on a warrant,
Mhm.
and I'll stuff envelopes.
That's what
I'll
I was
help,
gonna suggest.
I'll help find
Anybody in
it.
their right mind would not sell
Yeah.
a lot for $20-some thousand, let alone a whole town hall. Anybody with a brain wouldn't do that.
Right in the middle of town. That means our town is gone.
That's the word I was just gonna use.
Yep. So I move that Diane's trying to digest what we've all said and trying to tweak the verbiage of it. While she's doing that, let's just hit some of these other things and then we'll just circle back to this before we adjourn the meeting. So we briefly talked about insurance information a couple of times, and pretty much I got the sentiment that you are able to go in, they're willing to let insured people go in, but not general people from the town.
Right, yeah, it's not open to the public, by all
Correct.
means. You know, and I told them, I said, we can't do anything on our committee without access to the building. They agreed, so.
Mhm. Okay, so I guess that's all we really need to discuss on that. We're all set to move forward for the insurance. Okay.
What's Pat?
Funding options was the next subgroup.
Have you heard anything from him?
Nope, I have not.
And I've texted, I've emailed him and no reply at all.
Mm-hmm. And I think, and maybe some of it is we're not far enough along in our quest to gather their attention at this point. I don't know.
Maybe. He said he wanted to get into the building and I gave him your name and so that,
Yeah.
You could connect with him.
Who is that?
Daniel O'Leary, he's a grant writer for Roxanne Quimby.
Sometimes, speaking as a teacher, sometimes it was easier for me to say, the parent wanted to know, you let me know when my child isn't doing well, and my response was, you make the call to me. Perhaps what we need to do is not put it in his lap to
Go
make
right
the
to her?
connection,
Mm-hmm.
no, but to invite him for us to do a direct invitation. We understand you've been talking to Pat Bell and that you'd like to see have a tour of the town hall building. Let's make an appointment for that.
Right.
So that rather than his initiating, we're the ones that should be inviting him.
Yeah, that sounds
Maybe
good.
we should do that after we have voters' signatures and have estimates for the foundation, so that they can see that we've invested some good work, maybe?
Chris Mass of Dover Foxcroft, who was behind the Central Hall, he spoke to the Historical Society about all the grants that they received, and he might be a good source to have speak to us.
Mm-hmm. So do you think, I'm gathering that we'd like to have some of these people sit in on one of these meetings?
Probably be a good idea.
Good idea, yeah.
Is that what,
Have you
So
contacted
how-
and invited them?
okay. So, if you wanna get the contact information for the people that you're talking to, if you don't want, I can make the phone call and see if we can invite them to a Monday night meeting here and just share with them what's going on.
Yeah,
Sounds
I can get your number.
Okay, let's do that.
Another thing is that one of the things they waved at us at that meeting up at the other church was that Susan Collins' office had offered the money for building the new building.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if her office shouldn't be contacted to see if there are other funds available for restoring or
Restoration, good idea.
I would suggest not Susan Collins,
Right?
but
Conflict of
Angus King.
interest.
Yeah.
Just
do the same
just as a counterpoint. Not that they're not going for the same funding, but so much work has been done between the select board and Susan Collins.
Right. It'd be kind of a conflict of interest.
Well,
The
not
two
so
of
much a
them-
conflict of interest, but it could also be seen as undercutting.
Correct.
And I don't want to undercut the efforts that the board has put together with Susan Collins' office as much as.
but doesn't Susan represent our
Yes.
district?
Life
Yeah.
got in the way.
Susan does, and so does Angus King. I see what you're saying.
I'm just another resource.
Well, then should we contact both of them?
I agree with her, just Angus.
We should
What was-
contact anyone.
Pat,
Yeah.
what was the name of the guy you was talking to?
Daniel O'Leary.
Hang us work with how he's running for election.
It could put her in an awkward position too, Susan Collins, if she's getting polls from two different things too, so. Thanks.
It's
Yeah, good
also-
idea.
It's also a strategic move in that, in the fall meetings, it was mentioned several times that if there's any discord in the community, the funds are not likely to be awarded. So all we have to do is ask a few pointed questions.
I think we better let's get the train started down the track before we
Yeah.
think about that.
Okay, is there any further discussion on the funding options? Anything anybody would like to add?
I think there's, I mean, we could do like funding things, put up, a site where people could donate anonymously
Mm-hmm.
out in the community.
Mhm.
And, go ahead, Sue.
If those shingles are available, I would like to shop the shingles when they get out of the roof, or out to some local artists, and start some toll painters and start our fundraising selling.
We need to save
So-
something, the
I was-
building still has a
Thank
slate
you.
roof.
We
You
need to
still need
save
it,
them.
okay? Yeah, we have a slate roof too, but
Most of them
Okay.
are broken, most of them are trash.
Jerry said most of them were broken, right?
Yeah.
Dibs.
Said, yeah.
Central Hall, they,
Make that out.
it's all
Fill
bricks.
up a 5-gallon bucket.
I made a floor out of those.
Okay, let's move on so we can all go home and get supper. Patty, you briefly started talking about the 501(c) and your, I took it as your take or your group's take was using that as a phase 2 in this.
Yeah, I think that would work good. I'm a firm believer, if you're gonna do something, do it right the first time, so you don't have to go back and do it. And I guess I'm looking at the foundation that way too. Let's do it right the first time, and then we'll put in for the 501(c), and we will have a lot of background behind us. Look what we've done so far.
Right.
Can you help us with the last phase?
I'm not sure, but if we become a 501(c), doesn't the town have to give up municipal ownership of the building?
Yes.
Yes, it
Yes.
does.
In
And-
which case, the town office
Wouldn't be in there.
would
Renter.
become a
tenant.
renter.
Rental
a
space.
tenant of the 501(c). But the insurance goes down for the town if it still applies tier 1 and
But
tier 2.
just so that I'm clear, that would be the direction.
Yes.
That we keep it as a municipal building until it's time to go for the second floor, and at that point,
We would have to make a move and,
make it a,
If the taxpayers did
Yeah.
donate
Which
the
is
money.
Correct.
Which is just an option.
So I'm taking it, everybody feels like this, at this point in time, we don't need to explore that until we've secured the building.
right,
Correct.
and done some work.
It'd be kind of the cart before the horse scenario.
We don't
Okay.
know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
When they rebuilt Center Theater, there was a bond issue that was issued, and they applied for it, and they got, I can't remember, it was $500,000 or something like that. And then lo and behold, there was a fellow down in the Bow Bank who had been president of Stanley Tool, and he was some generous. He wrote some real big checks to them. And they did some other fundraising too.
Mhm.
Those two issues really built it, and we don't know. Who knows?
What,
Mrs. Oaks, the Oaks family owned that, and they're billionaires, and we asked them.
They had a store mill?
how many residents in Sangerville now? 1,300?
On a good day.
Close.
Yeah,
13,
1700, something like that.
If you take 440,000 divided by 1,300, that's $340 a citizen, a person.
That's right.
That's a good way to do it.
And it's my understanding, if it's in reserve and we spend it, It's not gonna affect our mill rate
Yes.
until we go outside of reserve funds, which was one of the reasons we were talking about trying to get started with what they're claiming we have in reserve. Because we're not asking the people to ante up more for their taxes. We're asking to spend the money now that we didn't spend over the last 5 years on this building
Exactly.
in maintenance.
And wasn't that money what they wanted to use to build a new town office?
It is.
Because the Susan Collins Fund thing wasn't gonna pay for the whole building.
That's correct.
It was gonna pay for all of, except for the 440,000, right? Am I right or wrong?
No.
It's 15 cents
No,
on the dollar.
that initially, they wanted, they came into our committee and they presented the 15 cents on a dollar congressionally delegated funding for a new town office. And that's what we expected to see in the special town meeting, is an option to vote for that. When we got to special town meeting, the article read, do you agree with allowing us to spend $440,000 to build a new town office? It was two completely different things from what we were led to believe. And I think that's what, I think that,
So say that sentence again. Were they allowing the, it said, will you allow us to spend
$1,000 from reserve funds to building or construct a new town
So
office.
they were asking for that money.
They're asking for the money that was in
Right,
reserve.
and I'm
Do that
saying that's probably why we went with that money instead of for the new town office, we can repair what we got
That's correct.
and keep it under that.
That's what we were trying to get
And
at
have
with
a
this.
nicer building in the end.
We were trying to get at this, is having our building on the warrant for the town meeting so that people could vote for it, and still bring up the fact that we're talking about step one being done with reserve funds and not increasing your taxes to do it.
Right, so when people listen to this tape, they'll hear that this money isn't gonna, the town, by saving the town hall, it's not gonna be more expensive than the other option.
That's right. We're
But
spending,
it looks
we're
like it's
spending the
gonna
money
cheaper.
we didn't spend on the building by letting the building go by the wayside.
Right, and we would have to spend it on a new building if we don't go back into the old.
Correct.
Right, so we're not
It's just that we,
spending more money by keeping the town office. In reality, we're probably spending less.
You won't know that.
But we don't
But
get
we
the
won't know
reimbursement.
until we get all of this taken care of,
Well,
especially if we do fundraising and stuff like that,
Mhm.
We don't, yeah.
and people who are willing to donate.
Well, there'll be some that say, you know, why don't we take that $440,000 and lower the mill rate? If we
Mhm.
have that much in reserve.
We don't have a home for our town
Why does the town have
office.
$1 million in reserve?
Cause they gotta understand we have a place to conduct business for the town, gotta have a place to do
So,
it.
Be organized.
So we've discussed the 501(c). We're all in agreement that that would be a
About half.
second phase deal. So we're gonna pass on that. Attracting steady renters, I also think would fall in that category, but I don't know that. Is there any discussion on that?
I bugged Dennis. I am looking for anybody who has pictures. That's from the engineer's report. That's from the MMA report. I cut out the exit sign, but I would love to be able to
You
put
were on
together
this.
a
Yeah.
brochure and shop the space to local interest. And then Melissa just blew me away with what she came up with, that we could have something, because we have so many ifs. We don't have a definite square footage or anything, but Melissa had a great form letter.
So she had an idea with creating a pamphlet to showcase the town office, and that there's opportunity for the town hall to make revenue. But also I came up with the idea, kind of flipping on what we did in the past committee, as creating a letter of support, but also a letter of interest for businesses. And it's just short. It's just something, like if you're a business in Sangerville, I'm writing to express interest in leasing an office or a business space within your establishment after it's renovated. our business believes this opportunity aligns well with the growth plans of the committee, to the community. And then it's just a template or wording, and they could put it in their own words, but I put like, we're impressed with your dedication to revitalizing the space and making it a hub for local businesses. And then we'd love to discuss leasing opportunities further. Please contact us. And it just says at the bottom, like, thank you for considering our preliminary inquiry. So it's not like locking anyone in, but it's like to open up a discussion with, hey, we're interested after you renovate this place.
We could take it to every music teacher, every yoga instructor,
or
every
and they could write
local
this, and it's
business.
like a tangible letter saying, hey, I am interested in this if you do this. And then also, Dennis, you had a question before I move on to the other.
Go ahead.
There was another letter that I did for a letter of support in just to renovate the town, for a letter of support for an individual or a business, just basically in support of renovating the place. And I mean, I can read it if you'd like, but Diane, she emailed it out to everybody right before this
I've read it.
meeting as well. So it's just like a suggestion or a way to word it. I wouldn't recommend everyone put the same exact, thing in there, but it's just kind of an idea of a way for individuals and businesses to be able to put out and say, hey, I support this way. And so having something in writing shows tangible evidence that there's an interest from the community.
One idea that's been bandied around a little bit is to take that library space and open it up and make it available for town meeting. And there's roughly 1,120 square feet there, give or take a little bit. You're supposed to have 9 square feet per person for public meeting. That will, on paper, that'll hold 110 people or something like that. That would be, if we want to go phase 1, okay, we get back into there with the town office and open that side up, and we have room enough to hold our town meeting there too. That's a possibility. I don't think we can open between there and the community room, which would make a lot more space, but I think that's a load-bearing wall between the two there, so I don't think that can happen. But just with the floor space that's in the library area, there's room enough to put 100 people in there. So that's something to think about too.
Could that possibly be set up with like a TV and intercom and still be used for meetings so that it could be shared even though there's a wall between them?
Well, possibly.
If needed, if we ever needed them for 100?
Anything can be done, but,
So that conversation and this conversation, we're talking about 2 completely different uses for the building.
Exactly.
And I think we need to focus on what needs to be on this warrant and take inputs from all these things we've discussed and make sure this is worded to everybody's liking. That's the point of this meeting tonight, is to nail this down and get the ball rolling on it. And it sounds to me like there's a lot of phase 1, phase 2 stuff, and maybe we need to determine out of this what phase 1 is, so we can get phase 1 onto paper and begin the process of collecting signatures to get this onto the warrant.
I think the letter of support would help the warrant.
I think the letter of support would be very powerful for phase 2 when we go for a 5013C.
Correct.
Because that shows intent, and especially if that nonprofit were then to go after grants, it shows support. And I would rather hold that letter for support on the 5013C because it would be more current to what's going on with making a nonprofit than it would be for the warrant. The warrant, people are going to do the support based on a vote.
Yeah.
So,
You had a question, Lynn?
Is the intent to move the town office back in and then down the road boot them out?
No,
No.
That's
no,
what
no.
I'm
No.
kinda
No.
getting at.
Yeah.
No, they would just
No,
rent.
they were the whole second floor is phase two. Second floor,
Right, right.
second
Summer
floor is
theater
some of
type
what
stuff, yeah.
we're discussing. I think phase one is to lock the ownership of this building down, being owned by the town like it is right now, and make sure it stays that way. I think that is priority one. And somehow we need to get through this warrant and get it written and presented.
She's got to say.
If we need to get this on the warrant, do we need to make sure that Paul's friend or another lawyer
Yes.
checks it before
Absolutely,
we submit it as an article for the warrant?
absolutely.
She's got something written that we're gonna go over, and if we all agree, she's gonna give it to him, he's gonna give it to the lawyer. Once the lawyer says yes, we're gonna have to, are we gonna see who's gonna go get signatures tonight, or to get the ball rolling
Correction,
after he gets it done?
correction. She's gonna send it to you because I don't have a copy of it.
So we're, at the end of tonight's meeting, we'll read the revised version and we'll come together in agreement on it.
So what does it say right now?
are you ready?
The
Yes.
revision.
Okay,
Yeah, we can do
And if you say no, I'm okay with that because I'm not owning these things. So, all right. Will the voters of Sangerville, Maine authorize the town to allocate up to $440,000 from the town's reserve funds to be used to begin renovations to the town hall building? With a 1-year goal, the renovations will be focused on obtaining municipal insurance and reestablishing the use of the first floor for the town office, voting place, and community meeting space. The required repairs will be put out to bid, and the project overseen by a committee consisting of the following town citizens: Dennis Campbell, Gerald Peters, Patty Davis, Lance Johnson, Jeffrey Peters.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
One little piece I think we might have missed in there, and see what everybody thinks. Spending of our reserve fund does not increase your mill rate. And people need to know that, because when people are voting for $440,000, they're gonna say, my taxes are gonna go up.
Which will not increase your mill rate.
You think we need that in the article? Or?
Yeah, there's some people that don't want.
Well, there'll be people that say, I can't pay my taxes now, I'm not voting for $440,000, because my taxes are gonna go up.
Can we just say of the existing reserve fund?
It's just going to be a parentheses at the end.
Why don't
This
we just-
sum will not raise the real
That
mill
voting
rate.
day, just put a note on
Right.
the door.
I think that would be a good way to write it. I just think there's gonna be people that are gonna just say, I'm not voting for anything that's spending money
From existing funds,
from,
it did say existing funds, didn't
It said from the town's reserve funds.
Reserve funds, okay, so that should say that.
Money we already have.
Right?
I think you should educate them in a different way.
such as,
The mailer, or even the day we vote, have
and maybe you're
have a
right.
note right on the door. on the
During
outside door.
discussion.
We need to get a reporter on it, or?
It says,
Special meeting.
Yes.
vote number,
Diane,
vote number
Diane,
one
I
does not
think-
increase your
I-
tax rate.
You're good at it.
It needs,
You're good at it.
Yeah.
There should be,
We
Paul,
are-
Paul, can I ask you a question? So when this article comes up, the moderator's gonna ask for discussion. So at that point, maybe that's a good place for somebody like myself to just stand up and educate the people that a vote on spending reserve funds is not going to,
I can't believe that the issue of taxation won't come out.
Oh, yes.
I can't
It will.
imagine that not.
Well,
You call for someone to move the article and give a second, and then you say discussion.
mhm.
And somebody, you or whoever, Diane or whoever's on the,
Yep,
wants to be the spokesperson, get up and
you're a good
Tell what
voice
we
on
did
it,
and,
Paul.
say, look,
Okay, so do
this
you
isn't gonna
think,
increase your taxes, we're gonna use money that we already have.
So it's just
Then
matter
there'll
of
be more discussion.
expenditure reserve funds will not raise
Yeah,
the
why don't we lower the mill rate? Give an extra percent.
Diane, he doesn't have a way to print that off, so he's asked if
Yeah,
you
he
can email
doesn't.
it to me so I can print it off for him once you get it finalized.
Sure.
I got a couple old ones that broke down, I'll sell them.
If you could
As soon as I
please,
get
That
out
won't
of
help
bed, I
us
have my
much,
printing
Paul.
back.
All right, so I just want, so at the end,
people,
Okay, let's,
Settle down.
Don't sign the conversation.
You can do it all the time. Can we come down a little bit and on this side, and a little bit on this side, and then have,
Steve Beal.
like what we did at camp?
We can, I don't know, maybe, I don't.
all right, let's move on.
do you want it said that expenditure of reserve funds will not raise the mill rate
watch you
in
do
it?
that.
Okay. They
I
want
think,
all
I
of
think
it.
the discussion, that needs to be dealt with verbally at the meeting.
Yep.
Yeah, we all agree.
We'll have a
And when we get
spokesman.
signatures, when we're doing signatures, we can say this won't raise your taxes, this is reserved.
Okay, yep, that's good.
And it should have been used to fix the building for the last 10 years.
You've already paid this money in
Right.
tax.
Okay, so I'm sending
Okay.
this to you,
Please.
okay?
You
Is
can
it,
send it to me too, if you will.
I shall, I'll send it to both of you.
You just
Print
can't
it at
print it
home.
off.
And, okay, so
Not
what
that
we're
I have
looking
to
at
do it,
is,
so.
then the next step is you are going to bring it to
I'll go see Eric Stumpo.
Eric Stumpo,
He lives out in East Sangerville.
and if he okays it, then the next step is to bring it to,
I need to meet him.
Michelle,
Yep,
Somebody's gonna do it.
yeah, Michelle,
yep, and she will do her reading of it,
okay?
and she will determine whether or not it's a legal document or a legal
Yes.
All right,
warrant.
and,
Patty,
and at that point, it becomes a petition
Mhm.
that we need to bring here so that people can take a copy and go out and get signatures.
If it's the case that Eric says there's a problem with it, do we need to have another meeting
Right.
to
Next Monday night.
revisit
Yep.
the issue before?
Well, meet next week.
Probably
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just by listening to it, though, I don't think that, who am I?
If it's just
So
little
we are
things,
all in agreement in the way, and maybe we should read it one more time, just to make sure that we're all in agreement with how it's written.
Okay. Will the voters of Sangerville, Maine authorize the town to allocate up to $440,000 from the town's reserve funds to be used to begin renovations to the town hall building? With a 1-year goal, the renovations would be focused on obtaining municipal insurance and reestablishing use of the first floor for the town office, voting place, and community meeting space. The required repairs will be put out to bid, and the project overseen by a committee consisting of the following town citizens: Dennis, Jerry, Patty, Lance, Jeff.
I think it
I
sounds good.
move we submit that.
Second.
Okay.
All in
All in favor of
Yep.
Okay, all right,
it? It is unanimous, correct?
Yep.
All right.
Spell it.
Do you want it as a,
Unanimous.
PDF.
a PDF? Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'll send that as PDF.
Okay, we had one final,
We should table that till your
yep,
dad's here.
I'm going to. We had one final, little subcommittee. My father, Jerry, was the head of it, and he's sick and not able to be here. So I move that we, table that till next week's meeting when he's present to address it with all of us himself.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor of that? Okay, last item. We need to determine our next meeting. Next Monday night at 6.
I would go with that.
Yep.
Second.
All in favor of that?
Date is February 12th.
Same place.
Same place. All with smiles on.
Very good.